watching Market Cafe with me, Shreyansi Singh, and Cheryl D'Souza will join us shortly. And over the next 1 hour, we'll take you through news and updates from within the country as well as across the globe, tell you which stocks you should keep on your radar, and tell you what the brokerages are saying as well. But first things first, let's take a look at the US markets, and Wall Street is largely coming off a losing session. What you did have is the all-important Nvidia results, and investors were really bracing for the majors reports, and what you really saw was that Nvidia just disappointed investors a little bit, and that is the kind of that also sort of triggered the kind of move that we saw largely coming in for Wall Street as well. When you take a look at the Nasdaq futures, you're looking at losses coming in there as well. All three indices were in the red, and that's the kind of move that you saw coming in, pressured by a decline in Nvidia after investors just sort of took stock of that all-important report that we had coming in for Nvidia as well. So that is the kind of handover that you saw for Wall Street as well. When you take a look at the European markets, you're not looking at a good handover coming in there as well, because when you take a look at the European markets as well, you're looking at just a little bit of a mixed handover coming in there as well. So let's see how that really pans out for us. But largely, when you take a look at what really happened, that just sort of indicates the importance of Nvidia. And shares did also drop about 7% in extended trading. When you take a look at Nvidia as well, not much of a good move coming in there as well. There were other buzzers, of course, but then you did have the 30 stock Dow sliding about 0.4%, Nasdaq dropping about 1%, and S&P 500 falling about 0.6%. So that is the kind of move that you saw coming in today as well. Let's also take a look at crude oil, and when you take a look at crude oil, you're looking at a pullback coming in of more than 1%, a fall below $75 in the second day of losses coming in for oil there as well. Let's also take a look at price movements then. When you take a look at WTI, around $74 per barrel levels is where WTI was at. Brent also at $78 thereabout. 1.5%, 1% downtick rather coming in for Brent as well. So that's the kind of move that we saw. Slight pullback when it comes to oil. Let's also take a quick look at gold. Not much happening there, but gold did also fall on a firmer dollar. So that's the kind of roundup that we have for oil as well as gold, Cheryl. But which are the events that we're looking out for?
Very good morning to you, Shreyansi. A lot of events actually to watch out for. The primary one definitely everyone will be watching out for is the Reliance Industries AGM today that will be held virtually. So that's one of the biggest events when you're talking about the corporate India or India Inc. that will be watching out for. But apart from that, let me put in place what sort of global events are we watching, or rather economic events we are watching for. Remember, for Indian markets, we will have the Nifty August expiry that will take place today. While talking about the United States, you will have the GDP data, the initial jobless claims, as well as the trade data that will be out. So those are crucial economic developments to watch out for when it comes to the US region. While for the Eurozone, you'll have the consumer confidence index that you need to watch out for. Apart from that, you have to also look at the other events. One that will keep everyone on their feet or get them excited about is Triumph's Daytona will be arriving in India. You also will have the ECB's chief economist who will be speaking. Atlanta Fed president also will be speaking today. And India today is celebrating National Sports Day as well. So these are the events to watch out for. Like I said, all eyes will definitely be on Reliance Industries AGM that will be held virtually, and we will get you all the top voices decoding what exactly will the management be talking about in the AGM.
Well, absolutely. But the biggest talking point this morning is AI bellwether Nvidia that failed to woo investors, like I mentioned, who fueled the recent rally in the stock. The revenue as well as gross margin forecast were not far from expectations and failed to live up to a recent history of trouncing Wall Street's targets, overshadowing a beat on Q2 revenue as well as adjusted earnings, as well as that $50 billion share buyback as well. However, revenue in the quarter gone by soared 122% on an annualized basis compared to 3 straight periods of over 200% growth in the previous quarters. Shares of the chipmaker also fell 6% in after-hours trading, weighing on shares of chipmakers including Advanced Micro Devices as well as Broadcom and other behemoths as well.
Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway has topped that $1 trillion mark in the market capitalization for the first time ever. Berkshire is the first outside the tech world to reach that exclusive territory in the United States, which currently includes just 6 other companies. The move comes after Berkshire disclosed that it had trimmed stake in the nation's second largest lender, that's Bank of America, by another 24.6 million shares. Remember that the firm has already sold earlier as well Bank of America stock in about 5 out of 6 weeks starting in mid-July, unloading a total of about 129 million shares and earning $5.4 billion.
Alright, then moving on, shifting focus to important commentary coming in from the Federal Reserve officials. Atlanta Fed President Raphael Bostic backs rate cuts in his latest view, says with inflation cooling off further as well as unemployment rates going up more than expected, the central bank will move on rate cuts. Now, however, he also, before pulling that trigger, officials will be eyeing the monthly jobs report as well as 2 key inflation reports before the September meeting, so keep an eye on those as well.
And the interest rate for the most popular US home loan slid to its lowest in about 16 months. This after Federal Reserve Chairperson Jerome Powell signaled that the central bank was ready to lower borrowing costs next month to keep the job market from weakening further. The average contract rate on the 30-year fixed-rate mortgage fell about 6 basis points in the week ended August 23rd to 6.44%. This was actually the lowest since April 2023. Remember that the decline in the mortgage rates by 38 basis points in 4 weeks has kept refinancing applications elevated. This as home owners who bought the homes when the rates were even higher moved to lock in lower monthly payments.
Moving on, then Hewlett Packard posts a miss on their 4th quarter profit forecast. Not just that, the company has also trimmed its expectations for the year, citing choppy demand in personal computers and competitive pricing. The forecast comes even as revenues grew after more than 8 quarters. Shares of the PC maker fell 3.7% in extended trade.
And software maker Salesforce posted robust 2nd quarter results, beating estimates. The company has also gone ahead and raised their full-year guidance on their profits. The revenues saw an uptick of about 8% on an annualized basis, largely led by an uptick in the average revenue per user and a shift to premium products.
Alright, then that was your daily dose of global news and updates to go with your morning cup of coffee. But we'll be back after that break and we'll take a look at how the Asian markets are faring, so you don't go anywhere. Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying tuned in. Well, let's take a look at the Asian markets as promised, and of course, investors will be watching out for any spillover to tech stocks in the region, of course, which is home to companies along Nvidia's value chain, the likes of Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company as well as SK Hynix. Those are the ones that I'm talking about. But currently, when you take a look at Kospi on your screens, downtick of about 0.8% coming in for that one. Let's also take a quick look at Japan's Nikkei as well. That one is also in the red on your screens, 0.4% downtick coming in for that one as well. Let's also take a look at Australia's ASX 200 as well. That one is also in the red currently. As we speak, it's down about 0.6%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng as well as Shanghai, of course, let's take a look at those as well, because 0.4% downtick coming in for Hang Seng on your screens. When you take a look at Shanghai as well, 0.4% downtick is also what you're seeing there as well. So similar moves coming in when you take a look at Hang Seng as well as Shanghai. But all Asian indices as we speak are currently in the red. So not a good handover coming in when it comes to Wall Street, not a good handover coming in when you take a look at the Asian screen as well. And yesterday we shut shop around above that 25,000 mark, and currently what you're expecting is a rather subdued start is what you're looking at, Cheryl.
Yes, absolutely, Shreyansi, but let's not forget that today is expiry as well, so you are likely to see very volatile moves in the markets. But it's not going to be a volatile show queue for you, that's for sure, because we have a lot of corporates and market voices lined up for you. Start at 9:20 a.m. You'll have Dinsha Irani, who's the CEO of Helios Mutual Fund. We'll also discuss the growth roadmap with Titagarh Wagon Company. We will be having Mr. Umesh Chaudhary, who will be joining us, who's the Vice Chairman and Managing Director at Titagarh Rail Systems. We'll have to discuss about what exactly is happening in the sugar industry. Are we likely to see price pressure coming in for the sugar sector? We will have Deepak Balani, who is the Director General at ISMA, who will be joining us on the show. Apart from that, we'll also go ahead and discuss the growth strategy, the roadmap coming in for Hoodco. We'll be joined by the CMD of the company. And like I said, it'll be all about Reliance Industries AGM today. We will be talking with and connecting base with Sushil Choksi of Indus Equity Advisors to understand how has the Reliance AGM been all these years and what should one expect this time around. And lastly, we'll also be joined by Puneet Chatwal, who is the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer at the Indian Hotels to talk about their expansion roadmap. Welcome back. You're watching Market Cafe right here on ET Now, and a lot of stocks will be in focus, primarily stocks that are likely to see huge sizable block deals that are likely to take place today. One of the companies is Interglobe Aviation, the other one is PB Fintech, but there's another company as well. My colleague Sharad is here to tell us which are the companies that are likely to see huge block deals in today's trading session, and not one, not two, but three companies, Sharad, isn't it?
Well, yes, three important block deals today. First one being, of course, Interglobe Aviation, where promoter Rakesh Gangwal and the related promoter Identity would likely to sell almost 1.47 crore shares. That's roughly 3.8% equity. Now, the total value comes into roughly 6,750 crore rupees. And interestingly, the floor price is coming at a 5.5% discount. Now, post the sale itself, Gangwal Group will be holding roughly 15.6% stake in the company, and over the last 2 years itself, they have been reducing their positions from as high as 36%. Now, there will be also a 150-day lock-in also, so that the promoters cannot sell more shares. Second deal is PB Fintech. Over here, likely Tencent is likely to sell 2.1% stake, which is valued at 1,610 crore rupees. Floor price is at 1,660 rupees, which roughly comes at an almost 4.5% discount. Lastly, there is Welspun Living also, where block deal is likely, where promoter entity is expected to sell 4.5 crore shares, which translates into a 4.6% stake, which the value comes in at almost 887 crore rupees. The floor price coming in at 197 rupees per share, which is at a 5% discount to the closing price. So important three block deals coming up, and these three companies will be in focus.
With that update coming in, so these three companies will be in focus. But moving on, then the Global Fintech Fest kicked off yesterday at the Geo World Convention Center in Mumbai. It is organized by the Payments Council of India, or PCI, the National Payments Corporation of India, as well as the Fintech Convergence Council. Now, the event hosts over 800 speakers, from policymakers to regulators to fintech founders as well. And at day one, we spoke to slower voices from the industry and with RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das, top bosses at SBI as well as Yes Bank and other fintech players as well. Take a look at some of these interesting conversations then.
जनधन में 53 करोड़ मतलब 53 करोड़ पार्टिसिपेंट्स उसमें हमें 53 करोड़ अकाउंट होल्डर्स है, और जिसमें कि ज़्यादातर 55% वीमेन है और 66% जो है रूरल और सेमी अर्बन एरियाज में है. मॉनिटरिंग ऑल एस्पेक्ट्स ऑफ द क्रेडिट मार्केट. And whenever there is any concern in any segment, the Reserve Bank will be proactive and take measures. The banks are fully mindful of the issue, and I think the banks are taking necessary action. So we should allow them some time to see the results. We are looking at multiple, but then there has to be a limit. You know, you cannot have endless number of SROs. I think maybe 2 or 3 SROs should be sufficient at this point of time.
YONO 2.0, as it is called, has been a work in progress for some time, and actually the platform of YONO is being changed. There were 2 or 3 vendors involved, so it's being unified. The UI UX is undergoing a major change, so it's not a refresh per se. It's essentially a completely new YONO which is being built, and there will also be a analytical engine built inside. There will also be a marketing technology element built inside. So this is such a major refresh. It's like installing a fresh core banking in the bank, and that's why it's taking time. But our hope is that early next year we will have the minimum viable product launched, and after that different services will come on stream every few months. In the next complete 16 to 18 months, the whole process should be live. And we hope to give our customers a very, very different and a very intuitive and simple experience as we would like them to have. So while YONO 1 is fine, YONO 2.0 is a completely different animal altogether. So we
Talking about YONO 2.0, one of the things which were mentioned earlier that you will also help other banks who wants to use this platform, especially the smaller banks. That this plan still stays with the SBI?
So while this was one of the views expressed at some time, but I think our first priority is to first launch it in a manner which is stable, available, and also is liked by the customers, is good for customers. And once our own customers are satisfied and have been fully onboarded, and as you know, we have more than 50 crore customers. So today there are about 11-12 crore customers on YONO. So we.
All right, and let's head across to my colleague Somit, who's standing by to tell us exactly what will we be expecting in Reliance AGM that is going to take place later today. And Somit, one thing is good, you don't have to go right up to the venue for the AGM this time around. Once again, it is actually a virtual one. But how has the Reliance stock moved all through these years during the AGMs?
India's largest company, Reliance Industries, will be holding its AGM today at 2 p.m. Now, this AGM is important because 5 years back, if you remember, the chairman had clearly mentioned that they will do the IPO of telecom and the retail division. Also in 2022, the chairman mentioned that they're aiming to double Reliance Industries' market capitalization in the next 5 years. Now, to double Reliance Industries' market capitalization, value unlocking is very important, and IPO is something that would lead to significant value unlocking for Reliance Industries and could eventually double its market capitalization going forward. Now, simple on that basis, what the street is expecting is some commentary to come in for the retail and the telecom divisions IPO. Now, do remember, retail contributes nearly most of the value for Reliance Industries at this point, followed by telecom business, and then there is the oil and gas and the new energy business. Apart from that, any update on commissioning of solar cell and module manufacturing plant would be something that the street would be wanting to know. Apart from that, in the telecom business, how the companies are scaling up their enterprise market is also something that the street would want to know. And lastly, when it comes to the retail segment, how the company is planning to re-enter the quick commerce business, what is the update on consumer brand business is something that the street would want to know from this AGM. Now, how has the share price moved? If you look at the 10 days pre-AGM move, nearly 4 out of the 8 times the share price movement has been negative. This time the movement is positive. It's up around 2.4%, 10 days pre-AGM. But on the AGM day, 6 out of 8 times we have seen a negative move come in Reliance Industries share prices. And post-AGM, 3 out of 8 times we have seen a negative move come in. But what is more important is the last 3 consecutive AGMs, we have seen a negative move coming in for Reliance Industries. So most likely the share price move would completely depend on the value unlocking, which is the most important factor for Reliance Industries at this point of time.
So, Amit, with that update coming in, so we'll definitely be keeping an eye on Reliance's AGM, but let's also take a look back at the conglomerate's journey so far, all the way from its inception. Take a look at this special report.
2024, a landmark year for Reliance Industries as it became the first Indian company to cross a market cap of 20 lakh crore rupees. Each year, investors wait with bated breath for RIL's AGM, an event that sets the tone and tenor for the company's future. For instance, the 2023 AGM saw the announcement of the 5-year succession roadmap. A year earlier in 2022, the conglomerate announced a massive investment of 2 lakh crore rupees in 5G, while the launch of JioPhone Next was one of the main attractions of 2021 AGM. But the company's past is as interesting as its future plans. RIL's annual shareholder meetings have been a fanfare affair since it went public in 1977. The debut public share sale of the company was oversubscribed 7 times, a success that was to be followed by several milestones in the future of the company's history. In the initial years, RIL's founder, Dhirubhai Ambani, booked the Brokerage football ground for the yearly shareholder huddle. the meetings themselves were nothing short of a festival for the company shareholders, who arrived in several thousands to attend. As the conglomerate expanded, so did its investor base. The venue shifted to Brabant Stadium in the 1980s and 1990s before the company settled for the Birla Matushri Sabhagrah venue in line with many other large corporates.
Our dreams have to be bigger, our ambitions higher, our commitment deeper, and our efforts greater. This is my dream for Reliance. In fact, it is my dream for India.
2002 saw Mukesh Ambani at the helm of RIL as his father Dhirubhai Ambani passed away. In 2017, Mukesh Ambani would pay tribute to late Dhirubhai. The next year, the Ambani family was present in full strength, including the next generation, Akash, Isha and Anand. In a sign of things to come, the Ambani siblings were introduced for the first time ever to the shareholders. However, the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 pushed India Inc. to transition AGMs to the virtual format, and that arrangement has remained for AGMs since then. While RIL's AGM is no exception, it is one of the few companies that allows viewing of the meeting not just for its shareholders but for the audience at large.
Alright, let's shift focus then. SEBI has warned investors to be cautious against certain SME companies, some of which paint unrealistic picture of their operations. In fact, SEBI has asked investors to not invest based on tips and rumors. My colleague Anurag Joshi is here to tell us exactly what SEBI had to say in that SME IPO warning.
The Securities and Exchange Board of India has warned investors to be watchful and careful about certain practices that are related to SME companies. SEBI has asked investors to be cautious while investing in such securities. SEBI's observations follow its findings that post-listing some SME firms and specifically their promoters are resorting to projecting an unrealistic picture of their operations and also showing a very rosier side of the business to attract investors, and they are making announcements which could potentially be misleading for investors. So SEBI has asked investors to be very careful about such kind of announcements, and these kind of statements from such SME companies and the promoters could typically relate to corporate actions such as bonuses and stock splits and preferential allotments.
Alright, thanks Anurag for all of those important details coming in. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get you some more news and updates, so don't go anywhere.
Welcome back. You're watching Market Cafe on ET now, and let's head across to Ansh, who's standing by to tell us what's the F&O snapshot for the day looking like. Ansh?
Yes, so let's start with what FIS did in the previous session. So we saw FIS have added very strong longs by around 32,000 contracts, whereas they have also covered some short of around 15,000 contracts. So net to net, we are seeing addition of almost 48,000 contracts on upside, and due to which the total long positions, which was around 57%, is over 61% now, showing their strong bullish stance in the market. Now, if we talk about Nifty, then in the previous session, Nifty has touched that record high level after 18 sessions, and it has been advancing for 10th consecutive session, which has happened for the first time in over 3 years. Also today we have F&O expiry, so we may see some good volatility in the market. If we talk about rollover data, then for Nifty rollover, we are seeing that rollover is around 62%, which is above its 3 series average, showing that investors are confident to move their current series into next series. Whereas if we talk about index options, then we are seeing most active put writing happening at the 24,900 mark, indicating good support around this level. Whereas on upside, we are seeing call writing happening at 25,100, indicating resistance around this level. So this is a 200-point range which option traders are expecting for Nifty today. If we talk about Nifty Bank, then Nifty Bank continues to trade above that gap level and continues to close above that 51,000 mark, which is a positive sign. But if we see on series wise, then it has declined for second consecutive series, which was down by around 0.8% in the previous session. Also, the rollover for Nifty Bank is below its average of 71%, which is at 67% currently, showing that traders are not very confident of forwarding that current position into next series. Lastly, let's have a quick view on few F&O stocks that are in focus, and we are seeing significant high rollover happening in Eicher Motors, Atul, Steel Authority, IDFC First and NMDC, whereas low rollover for Birla Soft, Balrampur Chini, Emphasis, Samvardhana Motherson and Shree Cement. So keep an eye on the stocks.
Ansh, we'll be keeping an eye on all of those counters. But speaking of stocks, then we have Jinay who's standing by with a list of stocks that you should keep on your radar bright and early this morning. Jinay, which are the ones that make it to your list then?
Well, yes, so firstly, keep your eyes on Nalco as company signs MOU between Kabil and Oil India. This is for collaboration in oil and explorations. Moving on to Macrotech Developers will be in focus as company acquires 100% stake in Opexify Services for 46 crores and One Box Warehouse for 49 crores. Post this acquisition, both the companies will be the wholly owned subsidiary company for Macrotech Developers. Moving on, Sonata Software will be in focus as company signs a multi-million-dollar strategic IT outsourcing deal with the US-based healthcare and wellness company. Also, NLC India will be in focus as company has signed a power usage agreement for the supply of 200 megawatt of green power to the Telangana state. Moving on, RCF will be in focus as board will be mulling fundraising plans on 5th of September. And lastly, watch out for India Cements as agencies report that Adani plans to invest about $417 million into India Cements.
All right, thank you so much for that, Jinay. We watch out for all the stocks that you've mentioned, but apart from that, we'll watch out for Paytm as well. And Varun is here to tell us why is that. And Varun, I believe they've received an FDI approval for downstream investment in an wholly owned subsidiary. Tell us more about that.
Said that they have received FDI approval for downstream investment in Paytm Service Limited. And if you remember, this is something that has been going on since November 2022, when RBI initially rejected the approval for this downstream investment, citing some of the issues. At that time, RBI gave them around 120 days extension to again file for this approval, but they were not able to get the approval. And following this, Antfin has to actually sell around 14% of the investment. At that time in August 23 they did it, and around 10.3% of the investment was sold to Vijay Shekhar Sharma's wholly owned firm. And after that, if you think, there were rumors in the everywhere that they would get this FDI approval, and finally they have got this FDI approval. Till they for now, if you look at, they have to go ahead and apply to RBI for getting a payment aggregator's license, which basically, if you look, brokerage houses are citing that they would do this going forward in some days. Till that time they get the approval, they would continue to provide online payment aggregation services to existing partners. Now what brokerage houses are saying, that till the time they apply for RBI approval, there would be no changes in the valuations of the company, because the final approval from the RBI would have to come, because other than RBI you also have the NPCI approval, which would be awaiting after they getting this approval. But the FDI approval that they have got is actually sentimentally very positive for the company, and going ahead everyone would look ahead for the RBI approval, which many of them think is they are about to get this approval in some time.
Varun, for that update coming in. Let's move on then, and let's get you the list of stocks that make it to brokerage radar this morning, and Gaurav is standing by with that list.
Well, yes. First, let's talk about Jana Small Finance Bank, because Investec has now initiated with buy rating and a target price of 725 rupees per share. What they believe is that the recent turnaround shows how strong the management and the business model is. On the liabilities front, what they believe is that there is more investment needed for Jana to be in the top 3 banks. But apart from that, this bank should deliver strong growth over the next 3 years, and on back of this, they are forecasting 21% CAGR growth in PBT and ROA of around 17% over the next 3 years, because we may see some cost ratios going down and credit cost is also improving for the bank. And on back of this, when we talk about valuations, they believe that the valuations are still expensive for the bank at the price to book value of around 1.2 times if we compare it with FY26 earnings. Next, let's talk about Vodafone Idea, because Citi has now maintained buy rating and a target price of 22 rupees per share. And this is because of the new development that is happening, because Supreme Court has now finally agreed to hear Vodafone Idea's AGR curative petition, and this is going to happen on August 30th. What they believe is that this is actually material development, and this can actually bring a benefit of around 4 to 5 rupees per share or even higher according to Citi. What they also believe that this can actually have indirect benefit for Indus Towers as well as on Airtel, but this would have no implications on Jio, and on back of this now they have maintained buy rating and a target price of 22 rupees on Vodafone Idea. Next, let's talk about some deal which is happening, and Competitive Commission of India has now approved the Reliance Disney merger, and what UBS believes is that this merged entity can actually dominate the TV play with 40% viewership share in linear TV, 50% share in digital, and a near monopoly on cricketing rights. What they believe is that this consolidation is positive for the industry but negative for the smaller players like Z. So definitely watching out on Reliance as well as Z. And lastly, let's also watch out for PFC and REC, because UBS has now initiated. On PFC, they have initiated with buy rating and a target price of 670 rupees. On REC, they have initiated with a target price of 720 rupees, because what they believe is that the key growth areas for these companies is energy transition and infrastructure financing, and the stress dynamics are also different for these companies, and that is why they are being bullish on these counters. So definitely watching out on all these counters on the back of the brokerage note that you have received today.
All right, so those are the counters to watch out for on back of brokerage note. Watch out for HCL Tech in trade today as well. They held their investor day yesterday, and there are some key takeaways coming in. Primarily, the company has said that they are going to, they spoke about their strategy to go ahead and deliver industry-leading growth. They are aiming to increase their bookings run rate to about $2.3 to $2.5 billion from the current $2 billion. They're saying that they see an opportunity to deliver double-digit growth in the medium term. Apart from that, they've identified 12 growth vectors, and they're expecting BFSI as well as TMT verticals to drive the growth going ahead. They're saying they're investing very aggressively in the AI platform, and they're believing that the deflationary impact in the Gen AI would be offset by increasing volumes. Apart from that, the company also unveiled the Project Ascent. It's a margin program to drive the gradual expansion in their margins. They've also highlighted the fact that there has been a slight improvement in the demand compared to what it was 3 to 6 months ago. And they've indicated that the demand is setting a tad more optimistic versus few months, especially in the BFSI segment. So positive commentary coming in from the HCL Tech management in their investor day. So watch out for the stock very closely in trade today.
Well, absolutely. We'll be watching out for HCL Tech, but another space that has been in the spotlight is Pharma, because Pharma stocks have been on a winning streak, posting gains for the past 3 months, in fact. But will this upward trend continue then? Listen into what the D Street experts had to say about this then.
In terms of a pharma, we believe the formulation companies, the contract manufacturing companies, and looking at the demand from the US side, where services are still a key and even pharma is still a key, we think that will keep on growing. So taking that into account, we believe the pharma space along with hospitals makes overall healthcare a quite a lucrative bet.
Pharma companies are really compounding machines. I mean, they have done extremely well. So I would say that yes, domestic pharma it's like a branded consumer company, and some of these companies have done extremely well. As far as the global facing companies are concerned, it's difficult to call out generic cycles. So my preference is to bet on companies which are growing their specialty business. So that's where the moat is created. That's where the multi-year visibility and fat margins are created. So I would want to bet on, for global markets, companies which are creating these products which will have fat moats and fat margins.
The reason we like Newland is because they had done all the hard work from a long-term perspective to build those capabilities, to build the credibility, to get in the customers, to get in the product. And then it's just a question of those flowing through over a period of time, right? And since we invested, we've seen that pipeline continue to grow. You never have the comfort on a given molecule whether it will succeed or not. But when you have a portfolio of such molecules, then you know that some of these will succeed. And even the ones that don't succeed, the company is taking zero risk on that. You can enjoy sort of decent margins on this business. And as this contract research part of the business has grown over time, the company's fundamentals have improved significantly.
The risk reward tells you that there are various pockets in the market that could do well. NBFCs being one, ITC probably being one of the bigger stories, some of the metal stocks, some of the pharma companies like Dr. Reddy's, Cipla, Sun Pharma. I think this is where our focus area is.
All right, let's move on and get you news-making headlines then. France has charged Pavel Durov, the founder and the chief of Telegram, with a litany of violations related to the messaging app and banned him from leaving the country while allowing the billionaire to walk free after 4 days under arrest. He was charged on several counts of failing to curb extremist and illegal content on the popular messaging app. And the West Bengal cabinet has approved a proposal to introduce a new bill aimed at preventing rape and ensuring stricter punishments for such crimes. The bill is scheduled to be presented in the assembly next week. Meanwhile, a 12-hour bandh called by the BJP over the rape and the murder of the young doctor sparked fierce clashes on the streets of Kolkata yesterday and stalled life in many parts of Bengal.
Right, and former Jharkhand CM Champai Soren yesterday resigned from the primary membership and all posts of JMM. He will join the BJP on August 30th. He asserted that his decision to join the BJP was taken in the interest of Jharkhand. Moving on then, Gujarat continues to grapple with a massive flood situation amid continuous heavy rainfall, with the IMD issuing a red alert for several parts of the state today. While rescue operations as well as evacuations are underway, the death toll in rain-related accidents has increased to 28 in just the past 3 days.
And with that, we are totally out of time in this edition of our Market Cafe. So goodbye from Shreyansi, myself, and the team that put the show together. But stay tuned, the market's coming up next.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.